to really not to think limiting. Most of the time, most women entrepreneurs go in and ask for exactly what they need and get 50% less than what they actually need to have. Because they approach it differently. I can't tell you how many, I've looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of business plans and financials, and every guy that brings me one, their salary starts at $250,000 a year as an entrepreneur with an idea, right? No, the woman brings it in and it's 80,000. You know, it's a completely different approach of how to do that, and yet women will make more with less. We know that for a fact, that women actually deliver 12% more on 33% less resources. They're phenomenal. They pay back their debts better. They are absolutely adamant about meeting milestones, and they are passionate and persistent in doing these things. But the other part that comes back and keeps just driving me nuts is that in wealthier economies, like the United States and other areas, women have lower expectations of themselves than men do. And we saw this time and time again. We would have these women that we called the $1 Million Club. They were at $1 million of revenue, and they didn't know where else to go. And they felt that that was okay. They'd gotten to that point, that was a success. They defined success differently than men. And we've got to change that. But it's going to take generational change to do it. But we're doing better. And these women here, the ones that don't have kids yet, but you will, and then we'll talk to you then. Yeah, well, you do have to get a good husband and infrastructure. You
That's
do
what
that.
I learned today.
But
My learning.
it's a little bit more than that. But it is going to change. We're going to get more women that think like they should be, and that's my hope.
There are a number of really cool pro-women entrepreneur and leadership organizations based in the Bay Area as well that I've been lucky enough to be involved in. Some of them include Women 2.0, Girls in Tech, and Future Women Leaders. They hold great events kind of like this, where it's a great place to network with women, meet women to be inspired by, and also mentor each other. And those are some really powerful organizations for, giving women a place to meet other motivated, ambitious, innovative leaders, as well as, like Women 2.0 is really good for, just promoting the accomplishments of women. And the more exposure we have to this, the more, we have higher goals for ourselves and higher expectations and role models. So I think, organizations like that, and, supporting these types of panels is wonderful.
I think I find myself in a position of agreeing most of the time, either from my left or my right. So I think, yes, definitely. Women need no support groups. Absolutely. I think one of the key realizations I had over the last few years was that my bubble didn't burst growing up, right? And I learned about this bubble, I'm borrowing it heavily from Marissa. I met her, we had dinner together in a small women's forum, which I was dragged to by another friend, and it was 30 women, different levels, very senior, she was a senior most. And what basically her story resonated with me, and I realized that it would resonate with a lot of people on this table, is that growing up, we grew in a bubble, right? I mean, people could have said, oh, you're really good at math for a girl, right? Yeah. But a lot of people didn't say that for me. It was like, you're great at math, and that's awesome, right? My history teacher or my physics teacher could have made me feel really bad about, excelling in science and not choosing arts, right? But they didn't. My parents could have said, hey, you know what, get married at 18, which they did. That's a different story. But I didn't listen, and I think they still regret it. But but the thing is that at the end of the day, my dad supported me, and he could have just as well said no, right? I mean, he gave me a choice, go to San Francisco or get married after my engineering. I don't know why you want to do a master's, but since you wanted to go to San Francisco, Not because he liked the hippies. It's basically because my brother lived here. So if as long as I was living with my brother, it was okay for me to come to America. But so I think we all have these kind of stories. But I think the idea that what I guess want to say is that a lot of, and this is something I've talked to many successful women, and whatever stage of success, right? Even just being in this room is a stage of success. Is that we kind of had a good bubble, and a lot of people haven't. So what I've learned more and more is it's really, really important to give back, even if you don't realize, if you have this imposter syndrome that nobody really wants to listen to me, which a lot of women face. Again, a topic for another time. But I think it's really important to give back, and I do feel that I make time, as well as make it a priority at this stage in my life, to kind of help in any which way. So especially advising people or helping people out, men or women. Thank you.
So I've been a part of a lot of women's organizations like Women 2.0, Girls in Tech, Women in Gaming, their San Francisco chapter, I started it. And one of the things I look at in any organization is not just the number of people showing up, but hey, if I meet these people now and I see them 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, how much has their business actually changed for the better? And I actually feel that a lot of women's organizations are still at the level of conversation about more women starting businesses rather than the best women succeeding and becoming better, right? And I think part of the reason that continues is just the level of questions people are asking each other and what they decide once they actually look at an expert who comes in, right? Like, how do they actually understand that person's success? Are they saying to themselves, like, hey, there's some innate talent, she's just awesome, she was born beautiful, whatever, that's why she is where she is. And that tends to be the way most people attribute success. It's like, it's something about that person and their journey rather than how do I create it, right? And I'm still involved with a lot of these organizations, so I'm still involved with Girls in Tech. I'll be doing a seminar series with them starting next year. And I think what I would recommend to all the women here, so that you don't fall into that type of statistic or situation, is, and men, right? Like, going back to the earlier point I made, what are you passionate about, right? Find your passions, really know them and understand them, and then live them. And if you do that, everything else follows, like that level of success follows. And so everything I do now in terms of women's organizations, the few women that show up, it's funny, we have 5,000 game developers in our organization, and there's a handful that show up, right? It's very, very few. But with those women as well as with Girls in Tech, like, my whole thing is, if I could, by being an example, by speaking the way I do, which is sometimes very irreverent and gets rises out of people, or whatever it is that I bring, if I could help them ask the question, what am I passionate about, everything else will follow. And that holds true not just for women entrepreneurs, but women in every other area in life. Like, I'd love to have more girlfriends where I'm like, wow, that a person is so passionate about this, and this is what she's created, and like the level of learning someone has when they're very focused on that is substantially different. And I think that's what all of us should be doing, is like encouraging women in our lives to ask that question. And whether that be your mother, my mother's over 50 now, and she's found her passions and is really happy and is running a very successful sort of real estate investment arm in South Asia. Or it be, the young girl who is like 16 or something and is thinking about what she wants to do next in her life.
Great, thank you. So with this, we'll conclude the formal portion of our discussion, and we'll open it to question and answer from the audience. So I'm sure you've heard some stories and have some questions, so it's all yours for the panelists. Raise your hand, come up to the podium, whatever. Dan has the mic.
I have many questions, but I'll start with one first and then see if anyone else wants to ask. So if there were a point in your life that you're very challenged, even with all the passions that you have, people great supporting, so how do you deal with failures, right? I mean, innovation comes from try and error. And how do you do it? And you must have done a really great in terms of picking yourself up. Just curious about your story about how you treat your hardest time in life and to come to this stage.
So I think
20 years back, I had a very, very strong accident on the road, and I was not working for 1 year. And I think that was the big chance for my life. So I didn't get up, and I think that's where I went back to the walking and facing big challenges. So I think that when you have a strong stop in your life, and I was quite young, and I had to stop a lot of activities and dreams, and it makes me it takes me a long time to really understand what's happening. But after this, you can recover and you can say, okay, I can really realize my life. So I think that a failure can happen, and you have to be always prepared for this, but never give up. And yeah, things can happen. If you are really open to the joy of the new day.
You live long enough, you always have failures. I think like tomorrow I'll have one, I'm sure. So feel bad. Feel bad as you need to be. It's sort of like going through the 3 cycles of a death or something like that, or 7 cycle, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you have to be self-reflective on it. If you don't learn something from your failures, you haven't grown. And one of the things that is absolutely marvelous about Silicon Valley, and is highly unique to this area, maybe of the world, is that failure is not seen as the scarlet letter you will wear around your neck for the rest of your life. It's seen as experience. And what that means, though, is that you've learned something from the failure. And you fail once, that's okay. You do the same failure twice, you didn't learn anything. So the most important thing is to have confidence in yourself that there are good attributes about yourself, and that you still believe in yourself. And what you do is you say, I can't know everything. Everybody has a failure in their life. Most of us, many. And so what do I learn from it so I don't do that again? And I think that's really the most important thing you can do for yourself.
I tend to, this is something I started doing a few years back. It's like, something that I really felt was end of the world. Like, this is it. There's nothing can ever get better. I normally write it down. And then if something else happens that makes me feel, oh my God, it's the end of the world, which happens a lot with me, by the way. So, because of course, right, this was the best idea in the world, and now that this is not going to happen, my life is going to end. My life does not end. And I, just as a joke, it started as a joke, but I started looking back at stuff that I thought absolutely everything was going to go downhill, and this was it, this was the end. And I kind of picked things out, like, they're all over the place. They're on my desktop, and my laptop, or like sticky bits everywhere, and I just remember like how paranoid I was at that time 3 years ago, and how irrelevant that is today. And so I think that just helps. It can be a good blog post someday, or like a book that you may write someday, but it's a good way to kind of just remind yourself that life moves on, and you may feel really passionate and really low about something, and that's the thing with passionate people. If you're a passionate person, even the highs hit you high and the lows hit you really low. And whether if you're entrepreneurial, whether you do your own company, as most of you know, you can. It's always peaks and valleys. But that's kind of what I do. Is I just keep track of it.
Bygones be bygones.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to us.
I think Prasanna has a comment. So if you're not failing and not having challenges, you're doing something wrong. You're not living life to its fullest, right? So that is par for the course. You should actually look forward to that. It's like, awesome, I actually reached for a goal that's beyond what I was capable of right now, and now I'll actually learn how to get there, right? But I wanted to share a piece, actually a part of Khalil Gibran's book, The Prophet, that's really helped me at times like that. Has anyone read Khalil Gibran, The Prophet? It's pretty popular, right? So you might actually, this might be very familiar to you. So, let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion, that it may sing. and let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, and like the phoenix, rise above its own ashes. So that's a very short piece, but very powerful, and I find myself going back to it again and again whenever I feel that, hey, I'm out of, I guess this is the bounce part for me, you know, I'm out of whack here. I'm not feeling good enough about moving forward.
Question?
Yeah, I have a question about, from the discussion I gathered that ingredients is having a good dad, having a good husband. I have both, and I have 2 children who push me against the wall each day, and I learn to survive. And thing is about facing shark-like VCs for the women. So how do you deal with that? What are the techniques that you would suggest for a women in dealing with VCs?
Can you maybe make this, less hypothetical? Can you talk about a specific situation you've had issues with?
Yeah, situation is that women get less funding from a VC versus a man.
But have you actually gone out to try and raise funding and had a situation where you did not?
No, not yet. I'm about to. We are in the process of developing a product, 85% there. For the first year, my husband said, okay, I'll bet my luck on you, and he's funding me. So, but soon enough, I have to go for a VC. So what are the tips or suggestions that you would have?
So there's 10 VCs on the board of Yetizen, and I actually don't think they're shark-like. So I wonder, and that's why I asked you, have you had this experience? Is there something specific we can help with? So I wonder if the stat that women just get funded less by VCs has led to the creation of this fear that they will be shark-like, and that sets up for failure from the get-go, right? But at the same time, I want to be respectful to the real question you have there, and that's why if there's any specific situations that you face as you go out and try to raise VC funding, which you're like, wow, I don't know how to deal with this. Maybe this has to do with me being a woman, maybe not, but I just don't know how to approach the situation. I'm sure all of us would be really happy to help you on those specific situation basis.
I'll add one thing to it. At the end of the day, what the VCs care about is the return on their investment. So if you're a really good investment, and if you have enough people wanting what you're building, and if they know they need to get in, they will give you a fair valuation, right? So, I would say don't worry about being a woman or a man or black, white, purple. Just go ahead, build the best product you can, and make your best effort. You will fail. Like your first VC is not going to write you a check. If that happens, please let me know how you did it. But just be confident that you're doing this. It's a passion project for you. Obviously, with 2 kids who are giving you a hard time, and your husband betting a fair amount of his personal money on you. So just build something that you're really proud about, and then don't apologize for it. That's the one thing that any investor is going to look in you, is that how much are you going to stand behind your idea, and don't apologize for it. That's most important in my mind.
So, I don't have first-hand experience, but a similar forum like this question came up. So I remember something that, the person answering the question was Diane Green. So she said, first, believe in yourself. And second, get up and stand up in front of the mirror and practice till you believe in yourself. So believe in yourself.
I have a comment on that. I've been a women's CEO myself. I agree with all of you. I'm so very proud of all of you for being here and talking about your experiences. I also believe what you said, that women are very passionate and very sensitive and perceptive and very hardworking, and they make a lot less than men can do. But we do lack a couple of areas. We are not aggressive, and we also we lack self-confidence. I think that's where, like you said, women are afraid to work in the man's world. So once we beat those 2 areas, then we'll be fine. So there are some things we have to learn to live in man's world. be aggressive.
But being in the engineering field teaches a lot. I mean, when you're just among those 4 or 5 girls among 100 boys, you will learn.
We should be a lot more confident because we can beat them all.
Yeah, confidence.
You're not there anymore. You're not you're not one of the 5 women trying to start companies. That may have been the experience you had in your past, but look at where you are right now. You have a completely different world open to you right now. Just take it by the boldness. Go for it.
Yeah, be confident. That's the mantra.
Is your technology unique?
It's not technology is not unique, but the application is unique.
Okay.
It will serve the section of the population that has not been thought of before.
Okay. Is it a large market?
Yes,
Okay, and does it allow for a venture return?
yes.
Okay, I mean,
The long run.
you're hitting a lot of the points that looking at, you know, I don't care if you're man or woman or black, white, and purple or anything else like that, but you have to give me the confidence that you are strong enough that you believe that much in your product, in your company, and you've done the research. You know everything, every which way to Sunday. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that is a turnoff for me is a CEO that comes in and pitches and can't answer half my questions. You know, about their finances, the details about the market, the details about what the steps are necessary to complete the production or development of the technology, because they have other people. It just doesn't interest me. That person is a CEO only in word. It is the passion. It is the commitment to what you're doing, and you can do it just as well as any man can. All right, you just have to believe in yourself. Right, and it doesn't matter who it is. You have to do the ask. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need.
I think taking one step further to the negotiation statistics that you gave us, what are the techniques there for women to be good negotiators at the job place?
I think all these women have negotiated rather well.
Have a thick skin. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's not about you, and I think this is something that is really important. I had to learn this really hard way. When people are critiquing something, it's the idea, it's the product, it's something. It's not a reflection on yourself. Whereas a lot of men too, but a lot of women do take that as personal criticism. And in negotiation, it's really who has the longest staying power and who has the highest edge, right? So you just need to have a thicker skin and just wait it out. That's kind of what's always worked for me so far. That's what I would say.
You know, it also depends on what the competition you're talking about. If you're talking about competition of negotiations for evaluation for your company or something like that, the best way is to have more than one term sheet on the table. You know, so it depends entirely what you're talking about.
Negotiation in any regular job, right? And you're searching for a job and you see a big disparity across
Incomes, when it comes down to women and men. I'm not a feminist of any kind, but I do see this at my job place as well. So that's where I come from for this question.
I have some other statistic about inequalities and the resolution of inequalities and how much it would increase our GDP. About 10% in this country. That's a larger issue. That's a much larger issue, and we need to address it. Absolutely. You don't have to be a feminist to address it. You just want to get paid for what you're worth.
So full disclosure, I have done much better as an entrepreneur than I've ever done at a job. So that being said, I do have something that might be helpful. Would you like to hear it? Yeah. So the way to think about negotiations, there's either a transactional negotiation, which is a type that you probably saw your mother and maybe even yourself did in a bazaar, right? A lot of haggling. That's pure transactional negotiation. You do not care about the long-term relationship. And then there's relational negotiation, where it's actually about the long-term relationship. It's about creating like leverage and all kinds of other things. And I found that my thinking, and maybe this is as a woman, maybe it's as South Asian, I have a hard time separating them, which is why this panel is hard to be on. But like, I actually think I'm personally very good at relational style negotiation, right? Because I tend to always take a step back and understand not necessarily someone's position, but what are the underlying interests, right? And if I understand the interest and I can come up with a creative way of actually helping them achieve that without negotiating me down on the deal points that are really of value to me, I end up doing really well. So one of the ways I have in my life been able to do that is actually by having a business and having multiple types of clients and multiple types of stakeholders, because then I'm not dependent on one person or one company as a do or die of whether or not this is going to work, and I'll be able to find out those creative points of value. So I guess the short of the matter is quit your job, become an entrepreneur, and try relational negotiating.
Oh, well, just in terms of negotiation, I think just knowing your position and the person you're dealing with, their position, and what their best alternative is to the outcome that you're proposing. Like for example, asking for a raise, you know, who are the other people who would be doing your job and what are they earning? Or would it make more sense for your boss to hire somebody else and train them, and then what salary would they be paying them? And if pretty much what you're offering is better than their alternative, it doesn't matter even how you ask it. You just show them that, like, this is better for everyone involved. And I mean, it's just business. It's just whatever makes sense at the end of the day, and just knowing that and being able to show them that.
So is it the shyness, or are you afraid to ask?
No, it's not the shyness, I guess. It's the disparity that you see, because, you know, as a lady to just succeed at a senior level in the company, it's not easy. Like, I work for an Indian company, and here is where the senior position, there are very few ladies. It's very, very few ladies. So it's kind of very hard to succeed, emphasize your decision, and make your point. It's a difficult race.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Most of the time you don't get it because you don't ask for it.
Yeah.
No, it's not that you ask for it. You know, I mean, I'm pretty much straightforward in my questioning, or when it comes down to any panel discussions. But it's, after all, you know that the seniors are all men in the organization.
So can I ask you something? When you do ask for it, how do you make it clear to them that what you've done has been of value?
It's all through facts.
So can you show ROI on multiple different initiatives that you've actually driven in your job?
Yes, it's all through facts.
Then I would ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you have put those facts together, you believe in yourself and the ROI you bought for them, and you're not getting it from this job, why not go to another job and actually paint the same story and get a competing offer?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
You're already on your way.
All right, okay. I think with that, I think one last one. Okay, we have final question. All right.
I guess this would probably be kind of quick. So I'm about to be a fresh graduate in computer science, so I'm definitely facing the decision of whether to work for a large company and have some stability, or join a startup or start my own thing. So I'm kind of thinking, like, when is the right moment? How do you know when you have enough experience and enough knowledge, like, a master's degree or enough experience with a larger company? How do you know, like, when to kind of, put full focus onto your idea? And yeah.
So I would say go to a startup. The reason I would say that is you obviously want to do a company at some point, and you will learn a lot, even if the startup fails. And I would say go to a venture-backed startup, because it's a little different than going to or an angel-backed. These days it doesn't really matter that much. The reason I say that don't do your own startup, I mean, maybe you will, is you're a computer science student, you should have built it by now, right? So something's stopping you, clearly. So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that's kind of my thing, that if you have a question around that, and a big company doesn't even come in the picture here, go to a startup, learn the ropes, see how it's done, and then, if you really believe in your idea, which you have now, or you may have a new idea later, I mean, you always have nights and weekends. You're pretty young. So I don't see any kids that you have to battle with yet. So, go for it. That's kind of what I would do.
All right, so
So I would actually.
Go ahead. So, would you say you have a pretty solid network that you can learn from and ask these questions? And, yeah? Okay. Well, I would say one thing I notice in all the young grads that come to us and apply is that regardless of what they're applying for, they actually haven't thought through who are the people that they will need to start that startup with. Who's going to get on the bus with them? Who can they motivate and inspire? So I agree with the working at a startup, and but I also think you should be very much out there in terms of developing your ideas. Like, you you want to do a company at some point. You may or may not have an idea, right? Maybe you do. Do you? I just assume that you do. Somewhat, no? Right. So that means you need to go out there and talk to different types of people and see what are the needs. Because if you don't actually do that, you'll never really understand what a market wants, and you'll never really be able to, develop that kind of product and be the CEO of it. So I would say, network, and try and, as you network, develop your thought process about what are the different markets out there, what are the needs.
okay, with that, we'll conclude the session. One final question from. Absolutely, that's why we'll entertain.
So, I mean, most of the panelists are in gaming companies.
Just two of us.
A few, yes.
Most are in gaming companies. Wondering if on purpose you picked the gaming companies, or just that women are more into software and gaming kind of companies.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to.
So the majority of these are not gaming. Just two of us. We're just the most vocal ones.
Okay, was just okay, I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought there was a third person in gaming, but
Yeah.
the reason I'm asking the question is because it's a question of basically software versus engineering companies, and I'm trying to figure out how many women in software companies versus engineering companies.
They're all software companies. Gaming companies build software.
I know
Games
that.
are actually now considered more of a games as a service, software as a service, similar models. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
Versus engineering companies, how many women are in engineering companies, driving engineering companies, or even building engineering companies?
What do you define as an engineering company?
Hardware, could be systems, could be energy companies, could be transportation companies, could be. But she's in cloud software or cloud hardware?
Oh, we are developing software for networks.
Yeah, so it's a software company.
Yeah, we are dealing with
It's not a hardware company. The reason I'm asking is my sister actually runs a company, and we always brainstorm on this topic, which is why are you doing software versus doing something else?
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
How many new hardware companies are there in the last 2 years?
Quite a few.
Okay. And then, I'm not being tongue-in-cheek, I'm actually asking you because,
It depends on
in terms of the space
area.
itself,
Yeah.
how many more new innovation opportunities are there, like VC scale type of businesses?
So if you go to medical devices, there's a whole bunch of companies. I'm in healthcare, so if you go to energy, a whole bunch of device companies coming up as well. If you go to telematics, a whole bunch of device companies. If you go to green tech, a whole bunch of device companies. I know at least close to a couple of dozen CEOs who actually run device companies. All men, no women. That's the point I'm making.
So I don't know if I can actually
I'm just asking,
give to or
is it
not give
natural
to
to
your,
go to software?
I don't know if I can actually give to or not give to your point. The thing is that in San Francisco, which is where I am, like majority of the companies out there tend to be software companies. And then of that, gaming itself is very, very popular. It's the densest game developer community anywhere in the world. Anyone else this way?
I mean, that's a good reflection. I mean, doesn't look like we have any concrete answers for you.
I have a comment, a quick comment. I've started my own software company and I've worked in India and everything, and we just got acquired, so I've gone through the cycle. Yeah, I was just saying that I've started my own software services company and we just got acquired recently. But I have a quick comment on that because I started working in Siemens in India and we had managers come from Germany and they would say, oh my God, there are so many women here. Because it was a surprise for them to see 30% of the workforce in India in software is women. So I think to a certain extent, if you see South Asians here, we tend to have a lot of software background, and women especially come from the software background. So I would think that probably also reflects here in entrepreneurs.
No, but I think
It's also
they're engineers, so it shouldn't matter hardware or software, is how I look at it. But
Are you trying to say hardware companies are better? Let's get to the real question.
Guys, guys are better because hardware companies are better.
Because I already answered that. Women are more innovative.
I do actually. I run engineering for a hardware company, so you know.
Software and hardware.
All right. I think with this we'll conclude the panel. Let's give a big round. Thank you. I think Naveen has a.
I just wanted to give a big round of applause to Meenu and this wonderful panel again. So you'll have 5-10 minutes to interact with the panel, and as soon as you see Dan switching lights on and off, he says, "Get the heck out of here," politely. He might